crisis in Afghanistan. I'm Adrienne Pedersen. Today on Upfront.
I made the decision. The buck stops with me.
Is there any way out of this chaos? We'll hear two views. Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher.
This was an avoidable tragedy. We chose defeat in Afghanistan. It didn't have to be this way.
And Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan.
I think this was inevitable. Even if they were there for another 5 years or 20 years, I think you would have had some of the same scenes.
Do they have constituents trapped in Afghanistan? And what about the Afghan refugees expected in Wisconsin? It's all coming up next on Upfront.
Taking on the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with your host, Adrienne Pedersen.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. We begin today with the unfolding crisis in Afghanistan, which critics have called a disaster for the Biden administration and an embarrassment for America. A new influx of U.S. troops in Afghanistan is trying to move tens of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies out of Kabul. This after the Afghan capital and the entire country fell to the Taliban in a little more than a week. President Biden says he stands squarely behind his decision to withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan after a 20-year conflict that polls suggest the American people don't support. The president spoke to the nation on Friday.
Any American who wants to come home, we will get you home. I cannot promise what the final outcome will be or what it will be, that it will be without risk of loss. But as Commander-in-Chief, I can assure you that I will mobilize every resource necessary.
But the evacuation is chaotic and slow, and there are fears that Afghans who worked with the Americans will be left behind to be hunted down and killed by the Taliban. Some of those refugees exiting Afghanistan will be coming to Fort McCoy. That's an Army installation in Monroe County.
We have open arms here in Wisconsin. I do not believe that all of them that come here are going to end up in Wisconsin.
We saw buses staging and other preparations being made at Fort McCoy last week. Social service agencies experienced in refugee resettlement are standing by.
Making sure that we would have individuals that speak the language, interpretation services, and other resources that would be necessary to serve these individuals.
Some on the right are raising fears about the Afghan refugees coming to Wisconsin. Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany tweeted about disturbing reports of refugees from a country with many dangerous people. I talked with two other Wisconsin congressmen on Thursday. Here's what Madison area Democrat Mark Pocan told me. Several Democrats, members of the president's own party, are publicly blaming him for botching the withdrawal out of Afghanistan. How much of this do you put on the president?
Well, I think you have to look at, from the very beginning 20 years ago, what was botched was some of the original mission by Dick Cheney and George Bush. And quite honestly, over 4 different administrations, I think Department of Defense gave overly rosy, optimistic projections. I think there were some intelligence failures. But to many of us, we don't believe in nation building in the way that this was trying to happen. We've watched other countries do this in Afghanistan. I think many of us, unfortunately, expected something like this to happen. And that's why you have 2 very different presidents in Donald Trump and Joe Biden, both saying we needed to pull troops out of Afghanistan. I think this was inevitable. Even if they were there for another 5 years or 20 years, I think you would have had some of the same scenes. Having said that, I do think we probably should have started the withdrawal of folks earlier, and that would have helped to make the transition easier. But ultimately, some of the heartbreaking scenes of watching the Taliban basically taking back over the country, I think those were destined with failures from literally 20 years ago.
And so President Biden, at the end of the day, he's the commander in chief. And in July, he said a Taliban takeover was highly unlikely. How did we get this so wrong? Was there anything you think he could have done to change this outcome that we're seeing now that everyone would agree is a mess?
I think everyone expected this, again, to happen. I don't think there's great surprise. The people who were maybe giving the overly rosy, optimistic projections were the Department of Defense. And quite honestly, it was in many ways in some of their best interests and those contractors' best interest to continue to have involvement in Afghanistan. But, you can't expect to go into a country that is so different than the United States, like Afghanistan, and you're going to leave with, having a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts and Disneylands in place. That was never going to happen. We've watched the Afghan government just completely, fold without any shots fired even to the Taliban to take over. This is what happens when you go into a country and expect to do nation building, when instead, from the very beginning, we should have had a very different approach. I hope what comes out of this is a lesson that, we think twice before we go into other countries. And I also hope that this gives Congress the ability in a bipartisan way, which I think it might, to get rid of the authorization to go to war from 20 years ago for Afghanistan, as well as Iraq. We need to do that as a Congress.
Afghan refugees are reportedly coming to Wisconsin, Fort McCoy. The Democratic Party in the state put out a statement saying they support the refugees coming here. Is this becoming political, and should it be?
Well, it seems like everything becomes political these days, even COVID, which I don't understand how a disease becomes political. But I think, the idea that we have people who assisted the United States government and put their lives and their families' lives at risk in Afghanistan. We have an obligation to help them, and we have to get them out of Afghanistan, and we have to help accept refugees like we always have. It's part of our moral compass as a nation. So I'm hoping, I've seen a lot of Republicans agree that we also need to do this, but there's some who are unfortunately playing to xenophobic fears, who are making it political. I don't think that's going to be the mainstream view of Congress. I hope at the end of the day, I've heard a number of Republicans say this is our moral obligation. So hopefully we'll do just that. But, we've got to get those people out. We're doing that right now, and that's the mission we're working at.
Congressman Gallagher, a Republican, says there needs to be a way to vet these people. How do you get them out quickly and then also vet them quickly?
Well, first of all, you're not going to put just anyone on a plane, right? There's already an initial simple process that we're going to be looking at. But that's why we're going to places like Fort McCoy, so you can do the proper vetting. But what you don't want to do is make this go even longer. I mean, one of my problems I had with the Trump administration, and quite honestly, early on, we had with the Biden administration when he was going to crank that number back down that he had promised in taking refugees, is that's part of our DNA as a country, is to take in refugees, and especially refugees who are refugees because they helped us when we were in Afghanistan. So this is really a moral obligation. We need to do it. We'll absolutely do the vetting. We shouldn't have any fear mongering on that. You don't have to necessarily look to just what's wrong. What we need to do right now, I think, is focus on the mission, which is getting the Americans and those who helped us out of Afghanistan. It might be as many as 100,000 people, but we've got to do it because it's the right thing to do. There's
been some talk now about what our level of concern should be about a potential threat here in the U.S. because of all this. What do you think about that?
I don't see that right now, and our intelligence hasn't told us there's anything. I mean, I don't know why. There's really, people are just throwing out ideas. There's nothing to actually base that on. But we are watching some rhetoric. There was one member from Wisconsin who actually is putting out some pretty heavy rhetoric about refugees coming to Fort McCoy. And that's
talking about Tom Tiffany.
Yes, exactly. That's unfortunate because it's based on nothing other than fear mongering. And again, we are better than that as a country. We've always sought to help refugees, especially refugees who've aided our country. And this is our moral obligation. And I think it doesn't matter what political party you're from, this is the right thing to do, because the next time we need aid in another country, because there may be an altercation or something, if we don't do this, we won't be trusted. So this is really important. We get this part right. And so far, they're doing this part right.
Just ahead, Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher.
We are going to stay there and get every American out of there and take care of our Afghan allies as well.
What he says the U.S. should be doing right now in Afghanistan. That's next on Upfront.